Good evening. It's another Wednesday, and yes, it is your favorite sports show indeed. TD Online is back. Another week, jam-packed action for you this night. We're going to be joined by a very, very special physiotherapist. She started out in Johannesburg and then made her way down to the Cape, where she's recently made waves in the sporting fraternity on a national scale. Then we're going to be joined a bit later by the Wits performance analysis and skills coach Katleho Lynch. He's going to tell us a bit about how the season is going for Wits. And obviously, Wits did go down in their first game. They'll be up against UCT in their upcoming fixture. UCT beat Marties in a Cape derby, broke Marties' unbeaten run. And who would have thought? What a start to the 2021 Varsity Cup season. But for now, we're going to go back to someone who started their journey in Varsity Cup, and let's hear all about her and her journey. Good evening, Robyn. Thanks for joining me on the show this evening.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. You've recently been with the Spa Proteas. Tell me about that. What was it like in camp? It could have easily been your second camp in the COVID time period.
No, we've actually had a few. So unfortunately, the Netball World Youth Cup has been cancelled. So I've been working with under 21s. We are called the Baby Proteas. Camp was great. We were in the bubble for 2 weeks. We were at the waterfront and we played at the CTICC. It was great. We loved every minute of it, and the girls took the opportunity with both hands. It was tough, but I think we handled it really, really well.
Certainly did. We've seen a little bit of the fixtures that were put out on television, and then also updates that were given to us on social media. Big ups to your media team for keeping us updated with everything. Robyn, we could talk days about the Proteas, but let's get to you. Yesterday was World Sports Day, and how has sport changed your life or given you direction in your life and your path you wanted to follow?
So I've pretty much been involved with sport all my life.
We just had a bit of a technical break there. Robyn, can you just start over there? We just had a bit of a technical glitch there.
No problem. So I've been involved with sport all my life. Started in Durban. I was a little nipper, and then I think I fell in love with swimming. And then when we moved to Durban and Dubai, my passion grew even more, and I became an avid swimmer. Then when I moved to Joburg, netball came into my life full force. And I think once I started going into university, my mom was like, rather branch out into a team sport. So sport has been a part of my life, in my family's life. My brother was a rugby player, so rugby's also been a part of my life. And I think I knew I wanted to work in sport since grade 9. I think someone in my class was like, you like massaging people, why not become a physiotherapist? And I was like, well, that kind of fits my lifestyle like 100%. From then I was part of like the first aid, which is a completely nerdy thing to do in high school, but I was a part of the first aid group. And I think it just fitted so well with my life and who I am and the type of person I am and have become. So yeah, and then becoming a physio and transitioning into my career, and my passion has always been there for sport. And I think it just all culminated to where I am today in my career. So yeah, absolutely love it. And I have a huge passion for sport.
You just took us on such a journey there. I mean, you kind of summarized the entire interview in like just a few minutes.
All right.
But take us back to your journey. I mean, we all know that in university you then went into physiotherapy. Was this your first choice? What were the other options available for you?
So yeah, physio was it for me. I didn't actually want to do anything else, but I did have a second and third option. Surprisingly, my second option was teaching, but my mom was like, you're not doing that. And my third option was a BSc. So I knew from the get-go that physio was for me. I knew I didn't want to become a doctor because I didn't want to be a part of like controlling or being a part of that, take charge of someone's life. So I like the more functionality behind being a physiotherapist, and obviously my love for sport helped. And because I did my high school at Wits, I mean, I did my high school in Joburg, so Wits was my first option. And at the time, it was one of the best departments, especially for what I wanted. And yeah, that's where everything started for me.
Nice. And then you made the switch across the main road to
Yeah,
UJ to
yeah.
start your journey. Or
Yeah. Well, I actually was at Wits for a while. So as a
Mhm.
student, I started with interfaculty rugby, just to kind of get more confidence and just to kind of know what it actually takes. Because like high performance sport or just sport in general is very different to what you study. So I was at Wits for 2 years when I finally started working. I was at Wits for 2 years in their Varsity Shield into Varsity Cup. And then yeah, I switched over mainly to UJ Sports where I fell in love with sevens and I dabbled in a little bit of athletics, which is something that I never thought I would be involved with because I was never an athlete. Well, if you have to think about it in that way. And yeah, UJ stuck and I met some really cool people and I got to work with some awesome coaches like Coach Pat and got to work with Jomo a little bit. And yeah, that's how that shift transitioned. Luckily, I worked at a practice that was based for both.
What is it like? I mean, going from textbooks into the practical field out there, was it a massive shift for you, or was the transition quite easy? Because from an administrative point of view, I can tell you that for me, what I've learned in the textbooks and at varsity and then going out into the field, it's miles apart. And then what is it like on the physio side of things?
So, like, it's completely different. I think they obviously teach you the basics. I mean, that's what you study 4 years for. But you only really start learning once you step out of and you've got your certificate. That's where the main learning actually starts. And I've never been one to write an exam. I suck at that theory aspect of it, but I'm very good at basing all my stuff for the practical. So it was a huge like awakening, especially because in sport, it's so broad and so vast that they can't really cover it all. So you have to do your like CPD courses and you have to learn still. I mean, we're always going to be learning because medicine is always changing. So the practical side, I mean, it's completely different to what we learned at varsity and the types of conditions and just the people that we come across is it doesn't relate really at all.
You said you also started out with Wits and watching them transition from Varsity Shield into Varsity Cup. And I mean, how does it feel being a part of a process like that, building something from the ground to a point where they're now competing against the best varsities in the country?
I mean, so like I said, I actually was part of the Interfac and then I was actually part of like off-field entertainment when I was a student. So I've actually been a part of it for a longer time than people know. So I actually have been as a off-field entertainment manager type, if I want to say. I've seen all those hard works that Andy and them built in by recruiting players. And then when Yuhu took over, it was like, I think the professionalism just stepped up and the players realized that if we want to play in the big leagues, this is what's needed to do. And I was actually quite privileged to have been a part of that because the players then, we had that Varsity Shield year. And then once we got into Cup, it was just another growth that we were able to do. And now you look at where they are today. And I mean, they're they're competing in the top 5 of the Varsity Cup, which is awesome for them.
And they're doing quite a good job at it, even though the result didn't go their way earlier this week. But I mean, there's still a long tournament ahead of them. Robs, moving on to your UJ days where we managed to cross paths, the UJ setup, has this helped you as a physio to prepare you for the world out there once you obviously intended on stepping out of the varsity sports setup?
I definitely think so. Once from like a personal point of view, like a businesswoman sense, I think that's when I learned the most because I went from being employed to being self-employed. And I think that was probably the biggest growth that I've ever done. I had to put a business plan together. I had to like look for loans and I had to really hustle really hard. And I was very grateful for the platform at UJ where Jomo and Roger took me in really and was like, yeah, use it, take it, make it with what you want. And I'm so grateful that I had those relationships and that networking to grow as a physio, as a person, and as a businesswoman. So I do think it has prepared me for the next phase in my life, but I still feel that there's still so much for me to do in a university setup. There's still a lot more that I want to work with before I actually become a proper practice owner and stuff like that. So yeah, I did learn a lot from Jomo and I learned a lot from Roger and just everyone that I worked with. So they definitely helped me make me the physio and the person I am now.
You spoke about two managers in completely different departments there. And for those of you at home that don't know, Jomo is in charge of rugby and Roger's in charge of athletics. You've been in multiple codes. And does your style of practice change from sport to sport when dealing with different types of athletes?
Definitely. I think it's just the type of sport that it is. Like athletics is individual sport, so you're dealing with a bunch of individuals. I will reserve my actual comment. I'm joking. So athletics is very different, and then when you work in a team sport, it's a different setup altogether. You have to manage your time a bit differently, and I mean, in a team sport, as much as they're individuals and they going for their bursaries or going to further their career, if you look at athletics and something a little bit more individualized, that is their career. That is all that they have, and they're the only person that can do it. So there is a little bit more pressure on something like that than a team sport. Team sport, I feel you have a little bit more time to get someone back, whereas athletics, they kind of need to be straight, nothing, no pain, no gain type of thing. So I did learn a lot, and I mean, I have worked with a lot of sports. I mean, gymnastics is similar as well, where they put their body on the line 24/7, and you have to make sure that they're ready to compete all the time. So women and men's sports is so a bit different. You just dealing with people is a different ball game, but learning to adapt is something that you have to do on your feet quickly. I mean, I just came from a netball camp and I'm going to a rugby one, so I had to switch my mind quick fast.
Individual sports and then team sports, how do you manage your time as a physio? Because individual sport, you get to spend so much more time with the athlete, whereas you swap to a rugby setup and all of a sudden you now have to treat 25 athletes in the same period of time. Do you feel like the quality of treatment is dropped, or do you just manage your time to a point where you can balance it out and give everybody sufficient treatment?
I think your treatment time kind of stays the same. You really have to rely a little bit more on your holistic approach in a team setup. So I'm now at UWC and I'm so privileged to work with so many amazing people. I mean, in this Varsity Cup season as it is, we've had 2 physios, 2 bios, 2 SNCs. So we've been so privileged to have so many people help this team. So it's different because now I can start the rehab process and then hand them over to the bio and we can work through there and then the S&C and then they go straight into the setup. Whereas you do actually have a little bit more time when you have an individual, but then again, you have to get them back sooner. So as much as we have more time because there's less athletes, it's all relatively the same. You've just got to manage it properly. And I don't think the quality of treatment changes, just your plan and your process going through.
And just for everybody at home there, you can pop your comments down in the comment section below if you have any questions for Robyn, because it's not every day we get a physio of her caliber on the show and someone that's always willing to share insight in the industry. Stop being modest about it. I see it. There's so much knowledge that she can share. Robs, moving on. I mean, you then, okay, well, now you're with the Spa Proteas, but I mean,
almost there.
The baby Proteas. Let's just emphasize on that. Let's just get specific.
Yes, players. It's a very different kettle of fish.
But now getting there, and I mean, moving from a varsity setup to obviously provincial setup. Now you on a national stage. The transition, the journey.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've expected this coming? It's something you've always worked towards. How did you embrace the position and the role?
It's actually quite funny how you say that, because to me it's been a natural progression. So my mom, when I was studying and stuff like that, I told my mom one day I'm going to be like the Springboks physio. So when I got my first call up in 2016 to do the Fast 5 netball, she looked at me and she says, Robyn, you're actually so much sooner to your goal than you realize. And I mean, like doing stuff like this, always just like, wow, you know, because it's not every day that you get to have this opportunity. But I mean, I think it's just something that I've expected. And I think my work ethic alone has helped me, because I mean, working in Joburg, it's hustle and bustle. You got to go, go, go. And I think that's kind of helped me deal with the high performance setup. And I think every university and every practice that I've worked at has prepared me for this. So I haven't changed the type of like physio that I am. I think I've just adapted really well to everything. And there is a little bit more pressure when you get a little bit higher up. And there's a lot more admin and paperwork that you need to do. But I think it's just all the more rewarding, because you get to see, like, I mean, I've worked at university netball. I mean, I played university netball, then I got to work with it. And now the end stage where people are so close to their dream. And I mean, our hearts were shattered when we found out about the World Cup. And I mean, a youth World Cup is just as good as a senior one. And just, you see that they've worked so hard for something and it's not to happen. I mean, I think that's why it means so much, you know, when you have the badge on your chest and everything. But I think, yeah, not to go off the topic completely, I think I've been prepared for this, I think, longer than I thought. And I think the support system around me has definitely helped. Needless to say, I've had my fair share of burnout. And I mean, sports physio is not for the faint-hearted.
And I think it's quite a good topic that you brought up there, because, I mean, being young, being vibrant and wanting to achieve so much in, let's say, such a short period of time, or not even, just because the industry forces you into spaces where you just have to adapt, and it takes its toll on you, because the industry is evolving at such a quick pace. And we always have this chat offline, myself and your burnout. How real is burnout in the sport industry? Because everybody sees the glitz and glam, but they don't realize that while they're chilling at home on the couch, watching netball, eating their popcorn, you've had probably like a 15-hour day and you didn't get sleep the night before. Explain to me, how do you deal with burnout?
So my typical day on camp, like we just had now, would be I would wake up. If we've had a game the day before, like 4:00 game, we'd come home, have dinner, have a team meeting, and then I'd start with treatment straight away. I'd normally see about 8 girls. Because of COVID, we've restricted it to 20-minute sessions each. And then I get the girls in the compression boots with the help of the sports scientists. Then I go to bed. I go to bed at like 11, 11:30, maybe sometimes 12. Just depends, because I need time to like process everything and get my adrenaline down. Then I wake up again in the morning. Then just before the video analysis session, I'll kick the other 4 players, get them treated, get them through the compression boots again. I have like an hour nap or something. Then it's strapping, then it's lunch, then it's team meeting, then it's going to the game. Then I start all of that all over again. So everybody looks on TV and they watch the game, but the stuff happening behind the scenes is crazy. I'm normally the first one up in the morning with the manager and the last one to bed at night. And it's great. I mean, COVID has prepared me for this. That 7 months off has definitely helped me get ready for this now. But I think at the end of each tournament, you do need a couple of days just to like unwind, relax, catch up on the sleep that you've missed. And I mean, I've had, like, I would have gone straight to Varsity Cup now if things didn't work out the way that they have. And then I would have gone straight into 3 different bubbles. So that means that's 3 months of constantly on tour, on the go. Then my body takes a hit, and luckily I've got people that can help me, give me vitamin B12 and all of this kind of stuff, because then your diet has to come into play, your vitamins and everything has to take control, because if I'm not well, then I can't really help those around me. But it's a real thing, and it's a hard one to shake off if it happens like 2-3 times a year.
You spoke about your diet, and UWC was recently in the headlines a few weeks ago for having dietitians in place. for the rugby team. What
Yes.
is the ideal high performance team consist of, or let's say, what are the important role players in a high performance team that can contribute to the athletes performing at the optimal performance?
Okay, so besides a coach, head coach, assistant coaches, a team doctor, physio, bio, if you're lucky, sports scientist, you also have a sports scientist, you have your nutritionist, you have your dietitian, and then you got the other people that work in it, like your admin staff, and obviously the people that help fund the program. So it takes a lot more people to run something than people understand. And the nutrition side of it, I mean, because we're at UWC and it's a different university to the others, because you have to take into consideration the socioeconomic background of some of the players and things like that. And I guess this is my first year at UWC, but one of the things that the coaches and everything picked up was that the players don't have enough energy when they come to the field and to training, and because I mean they don't really have much food. So the nutrition came in, and I mean we're providing them with a meal and a snack a day, whereas some of them might not have. So that's changing the game for us a little bit, and I definitely think it's going to help us in the long run. But those ladies are really doing such a good job, and those are people behind the scenes that nobody knows about, but they're helping our boys. They're teaching them what they should be putting in their bodies, how much they should be drinking, eating, you name it, they're helping. Even the boys for the fast coming up now, they've kind of given them some tips on how to manage it if they're going to fast during the tournament.
And as a physio, do you think that the recovery period slows down a bit because they're not getting as much nutrients? Or how do you help them, say, during the fast, to get their body recovered in time so that they can be ready for the next fixture?
So it's all about education. We have to kind of speak to them on the regular, and you have to realize that these are youngsters, like they age from like 18 to 23, 24. I mean, they don't know what's going on themselves. So it's a constant reminder to them. You have to educate them on why, because we've put a big emphasis on recovery, and they need to realize that as much as you've got the physio, you've got your massages going, your compression boots, your complex devices and all of that, sleep and nutrition is probably the best form of recovery that you can get. So I think the ladies from the dietitian and the nutrition side have educated them quite a lot. We just have to make sure that we reinforce what they've told them.
Nice. And just to drift off a bit from the medical side of sport, you're quite an activist yourself for gender equality in sport. And this is a topic very, very close to your heart. And what got you started, and what got you ticking to want to make the change in the sporting industry?
I think because, I mean, I'm not gonna leave the elephant in the room. I'm a colored and I'm a female, and I'm working in a male dominated sport. So I always walk in there, or when I started, and I had to like prove to everybody that I'm here for a reason and I'm actually good at what I do. And I didn't think that it was fair. So I think from the get-go, I've just thought that I need to prove myself and make sure that I not only do the best so that the next coach realizes, listen, there's a reason why his CV is so good, but that the other physios don't have to work they don't have to work as hard as what I did. And it's just, I don't know, we look at what's happening in our country and we look what's happening around the world. Women get paid less and women get treated a lot differently in the workplace. And I think what's nice being in a situation where I am at the moment, we've got like 4 or 5 ladies that are working in this rugby team, and I think we're all really great at what we do. And I think that it's getting better, but we can still get a lot better. And I think it just takes people staying true to who they are, practicing what they preach, walking the talk. And I think it'll just help the ladies coming into the profession. It'll make it easier for them.
And you've been in the industry for a few years, and in that few years you've managed to make quite a credible name for yourself. How has the industry evolved from the time you started to what it's like now? And do you think that the women currently in sport have left the sport in a better place for women coming into it to, let's say, easily fall into roles?
Definitely think so. I mean, you look at Renee Naylor, she's set the standard quite high for us women. One day I would love to be where she is. But I think 10, 20 years ago, our country was obviously in a different place. And it is getting better with time because there are more females graduating in professions that are needed, and especially in sport. So, and I think we've got to, like, we're hard, we're tough, and we can handle everything that gets thrown at us. And I also think that we women in society are getting stronger and more independent, and we're able to go for those goals now, which 10, 20 years ago we couldn't. So it's people like Renee and everybody else in sport that has helped us, and I hope that I will inspire people like the way Renee has.
I'm sure you have already. I mean, your Instagram's always popping. So
No, it's not.
there's probably
No,
this modest approach of yours. This modest approach of yours. But now we've got 2021 Varsity Cup happening. You with the baby Proteas. What can we expect from Robyn Phillips in 2021 and the future? What are some of your long-term goals that you have in place?
Obviously, the World Cup, the Youth World Cup was one of them, and they were supposed to also be like a Commonwealth for the youth, and I was really keen for that. Unfortunately, COVID's changed plans, but luckily I still have my eye on a World Cup, and I still have my eyes on going to an Olympics and a Com Games one day. And then obviously my big plan is to open up a high performance something, just because I think we're still so far behind in sport that in order to, we just have to do it. We have to compete against New Zealand and Australia, and we have to get our systems and structures in place. So, yeah, that's my long-term goal. But for now, World Cup, Commonwealth, and Olympics would be quite nice for me.
It would be quite interesting. We have an Olympics later on this year, and who knows what the future holds for us. I mean, it's been such a weird space because not long ago, everybody had all these plans in place. I mean, even myself, and then boom, all of a sudden, all your plans were cut short. And it was quite a reality check for all of us to realize that there is a higher power that has control over everything. And even though you're doing what you're doing, you need to realize that there's a higher power that actually has control over it.
Just reel it back in. Set your goals, something that's achievable. And unfortunately it is a touch and go time in sport at the moment, but I think we'll still get there. It might just take a little bit longer.
I definitely think so. I mean, look at Australia and New Zealand thinking of dropping the quarantine period when they do travel, the two countries, when they travel, let's say, across the ocean.
Exactly.
And they're actually looking at starting a Super Rugby that will consist of New Zealand and Australia because of the rate that COVID's dropped in their countries, and also just the way they manage and handle things. So who knows what the future has in store for us. I think it's quite exciting times.
Definitely.
Robyn, you've got a good support system and you've got a good following base. And if I could leave you with a few words that you could obviously tell the public out there, and let's say a younger Robyn for that matter, what advice would you be giving a younger Robyn right now in her first year of varsity?
I've actually been asked this question and I don't remember what I answered, but at the moment it's dream big and work hard. Your hard work pays off in the end. Because what's that quote? Hard work beats talent every day. Because if talent doesn't work hard. Yeah, there we go. So work hard and you'll reap the rewards later. I'm a true testament of that.
Well, Robyn, we're reaching the end of this segment. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I wish you all the best in your journey in sport. And I mean, let's hope that I see you a couple of weeks from now in the bubble.
22nd of April. Here's hoping. Here's hoping.
No, definitely. Thanks so much. Have a good evening further. And thanks once again for being on TD Online.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
It's always a pleasure. That was Robyn Phillips, the physiotherapist for the Baby Proteas, the netball team, sharing a bit of her journey in sport and physiotherapy and what it takes to work in a high performance setup. But next up, we're going to be joined by the performance analysis, Katleho Lynch. He is the performance analysis of Wits. Wits did go down in their first game, and I mean, it was a tough match indeed. Next up, they've got UCT, who recently beat Marties in a Cape Derby that took place in Gauteng. How weird. Crazy times. That definitely would have been a sold-out fixture had it been at the Dani Craven or at the Green Mile in Cape Town. But now, we're going to chat to Katleho and look back at what exactly went down in that fixture. Katleho, good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Thaakir. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to the next couple of minutes with you, man.
Look, it's always a pleasure just chatting to you and getting some of your insight. Where do we start? I mean, Varsity Cup in a bubble, the first of its kind, the first ever. What was it like getting set up in that environment?
Yeah, I think the thing for us was obviously we know that this is going to be a challenge. We also knew that our first the games that we'll be playing in the first bubble, they're all going to pose a different threat. And obviously for us it's just a matter of trying to be process driven, and then with that just trying to go one game at a time. Instead of just thinking too far ahead, because you can lose focus and direction there if you try and think too far ahead. Just a matter of us importance just to make sure that we focus one game at a time. And obviously now we're looking forward to UCT, and we've learned quite a few lessons from Sunday against the Tuks.
And I mean, if you look back at that Tuks game, certainly the highlight of the day. Tuks came out there all guns blazing, having that home ground advantage, even though there wasn't any spectators. But I mean, for us, it was just, let's say for Wits, it was just a trip across the Yixkay to take on Tukkies. What do you take out of that game, and how do you move forward from there and keep the guys motivated? Because it's definitely going to be a long time period. Obviously, they don't have that comfort of going home to their families and switching off. Whereas now you're in a bubble, you're stuck with your coach that's probably going to give you his peace of mind right after that game, and you have to deal with it all the time. How do you keep the guys in a positive mind space and get them motivated for the next game?
Yeah, I think what's important is for us to obviously review what went well for us, also review what we could be better at, which we have done. And then one of the key things that really hurt us from that game was discipline, and obviously some too much individualism, which was definitely not what we prepared to do. That let us down. But the key thing for us, I've just mentioned discipline. Discipline is a controllable. It's something that we've spoken about, quite intensively as a group. And it's something that you're going to be using forward in preparation for tomorrow's game. And again, we have to realize that we're working with students. We're not working with professional rugby players here. They've got, some of them after breakfast, they've got some online stuff they need to do and all of that. So for us, it's just making sure that, they're getting that balance right between just switching off from rugby and focusing on academics, focusing on catching up. And then obviously, the most important thing for us as coaches is just to be that extra voice for them and to show that caring DNA that we are about. It's important for us that they get that balance right. Because I really think if everything is just rugby focused, we're not going to achieve, what we want to achieve in terms of that. So for us, it's just a matter of managing, what they're doing off the field, on the field, and academically, as well as just giving them the support that they need outside of rugby.
True. And I think if we do follow that model, I think it would take rugby in South Africa to a completely another level. compared to the rest of the world. You're quite an analyst yourself. Well, that's why you've got the position. But you analyze everything to the T. What have you made so far of round one of the Varsity Cup?
Yeah, I think I haven't really watched all the teams, but from what I've seen is a lot of the teams that have obviously won their games. They've really done well with their set piece. They've really done well in terms of their kicking game. Kicking game is it's instrumental to becoming a championship team. If you just look at some of the stats from our game, if you look at the stats from Marty's Ikes. Kicking is definitely a factor there. It's influenced results, and then obviously the teams that execute and that take the opportunities. Those are the teams that have gotten over the line, and the teams that have won. So that's just some of the things that I've picked up from the first round of Varsity Cup 2021. Look,
it's nice to know that someone actually appreciates my hard work when they actually look at the stats. So yeah, it's quite interesting. If you look at it, moving on, and then you've basically summed up round one. Look at round two. You've got UCT. In your last game against UCT, you drew 10-all, and then the game before that, you guys beat UCT 30-29. Certainly, fortunes have changed for Wits over the years. Where did this come from, and how did you guys manage to put this winning mindset into the players and the environment so that you guys can get the result that's needed?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we can never ever take for granted is the environment that the head coach creates. So Wits has really come far in the last couple of years, and obviously with our head coach, Coach Hugo van Us. He's really changed, the performance mindset. He's added, extra staff that focus on different aspects of the game. We've got a mental coach. We've got a consultant that also watches what, he looks from a different viewpoint of what we're trying to achieve. I've obviously come in as the analyst. So there's been that constant growth. Wits a couple of years ago, didn't even, have a big focus on gym and strength and conditioning. We've probably got one of the best strength and conditioning coaches now in the country with Jacques Durant, and he's in charge of that. So I just think that in terms of that performance mindset, Coach Hugo has really done an excellent job there. But I think the most important thing about how Wits has, improved and gotten to where they are now is just, the personality of Coach Hugo. He really tries to be a people's coach. He really tries to get his staff involved. He really tries to get to know his players. He really has got that fatherhood sort of, personality. And it's that balance is so important to improving performance and changing mindsets, and that's just some of the the two key things there that I really think has elevated Wits rugby from where it was to what it is now.
I mean, it's definitely got everybody excited looking at the growth of Wits, and now tomorrow you're taking on a UCT team that beat Marty's, broke their unbeaten run of so many games in Varsity Cup rugby. Katleho, what are the key areas in the game that Wits would be looking to capitalize on in order to neutralize that UCT attack?
Yeah, I think Thaakir, with what we want to obviously try and do, and what any team will try and do is just to make sure that they defend well, and try and concede as the least amount of points as possible. And as obviously we need to make sure that we win our set piece. We need to make sure that our kicking game is on point. We're smart, and we need to take our opportunities. We really need to take our opportunities. I think if we can get that mix right, and if we stick to our plan, which we do have, we can really take this game. We can win this game, and it can change our path within this campaign.
No, definitely. And I mean, the season is still young. There's quite a number of games that need to take place. And I mean, it's gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a tough one. But we certainly do know that Wits can bounce back. Any guys that you think the South African public should look out for in your team when you guys take on UCT tomorrow? We do know Constant Becklin is one of South Africa's favorites. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think yes, it's very difficult to name point quite a few guys, because I really think we've got quite a strong core of players. But if I had to pick one player from the forwards, I'd probably go with Philip Kraus. And then in the backs, I'll probably go with Kurt Webster. They're instrumental to our plan and what we want to try and achieve tomorrow.
No, definitely. We're going to look forward to you guys. We know that Joburg is going to be behind you. The TD Online viewers, you guys better be glued to that game tomorrow. Let's get behind Katleho and the boys and get that W tomorrow. Thanks so much for your time this evening. And we look forward to chatting to you soon, man.
No, thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you guys are doing to grow the game and get the public involved and all of that. So really, thank you. Thanks to you.
It's always a pleasure. We can't do it without you guys giving us access to the sporting fraternity and what it's like behind the scenes, Katleho. Thanks, Emil. We're going to chat soon. We're going to wrap the show up. We need to chat to you soon, and let's figure out exactly how your game went against UCT. Next week, we'll be looking forward to chatting to you again. That was Katleho Lynch, the performance analysis of Wits University. That is our show for this evening. What a jam-packed show. We got to chat to Robyn Phillips, the physiotherapist for the baby Proteas, and then Katleho Lynch wrapped up the show, giving us a bit of a review of Wits' first game and giving us a preview of what we can expect in their games to come for the season. They do take on UCT tomorrow in a north-south derby, if you want to call it that. Definitely one to look forward to. But that's it from us for this evening. We're going to be looking forward to chatting to everybody and interacting with you guys next week, same time, same place. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anybody you'd like to see on the show, pop it down in the comment section below, or kindly just slide in the DMs, as they'd say, and tell us exactly who you'd like to see on the show. Well, that's it from us for now. Until next week, we'll be back, same time, same place.